The alarm bells rang across New Busan Colony like the screams of dying metal. Governor Hyun-woo Kim stood at his office window, watching the night sky fill with points of light that should not have been there. Each light was a ship. Each ship carried enough firepower to burn a city to ash. 2,000 Vorthak warships had arrived at the edge of the solar system 6 hours ago. Now they moved toward New Busan like a swarm of angry wasps, their hulls gleaming with the cold light of distant stars. "Sir, we need to start the evacuation now," said his aide, a young woman named Soo-jin who had been working without sleep for 3 days. Her hands shook as she held the emergency reports. Hyun-woo nodded but did not look away from the window. 50 million people lived on New Busan. The transport ships could maybe carry 10 million if they packed them like cargo. The math was simple and terrible. "Begin evacuation of the children first," he said. "Then the elderly. Essential workers stay until the end." Soo-jin ran to send the orders. Hyun-woo stayed at the window, watching death approach his world. In space, above the planet, Captain So-young Park gripped the arms of her command chair as her ship shook from another enemy blast. The bridge lights flickered red with each hit. Around her, 12 human ships tried to fight against an ocean of alien vessels. "Shields down to 30%, called out her weapons officer Jin-ho. Sweat ran down his face as he worked at his controls. "We can't take much more of this." So-young looked at the tactical display. Red dots filled the screen like a disease. Each red dot was an enemy ship. The 12 blue dots representing her small fleet looked lost in that sea of red. "Send another distress signal," she ordered. "All frequencies, someone has to hear us." "Already sent 15 signals, Captain," said her communications officer, a nervous man named Dong-soo. "No response from Fleet Command. We're on our own." So-young closed her eyes for a moment. She thought of her daughter back on Earth, probably sleeping peacefully with no idea that her mother was about to die fighting impossible odds. When she opened her eyes, they were hard as steel. "Then we make them pay for every inch," she said. "All ships attack pattern 7. We go down fighting." The human ships turned toward the enemy, their weapons blazing. It was like throwing stones at a mountain, but they threw them anyway. Far across the system, Admiral Dong-min Lee received the distress signal aboard his ship, the Taeguk. His ship was different from the others in the human fleet. Sleeker, faster, packed with weapons that most people had never seen. "Sir, we're getting emergency signals from New Busan," reported his communications officer, Mi-young-han. She was young but steady under pressure. "The colony is under attack. They're asking for immediate help." Dong-min studied the star charts on his main screen. His ship had been testing new weapons in this system for 3 weeks. Secret weapons. Experimental technology that could change everything. "How many enemy ships?" he asked. "Long-range sensors show 2,000, sir. Maybe more." The bridge went quiet. Even with their advanced weapons, 1 ship against 2,000 was suicide. But Dongmin had not become an admiral by backing down from bad odds. "Set course for New Busan," he ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir," said his weapons officer, a steady man named Jae-sung. "Should we call for backup? The main fleet could be here in 2 days." "The colony will be dead in 2 hours," Dongmin replied. "We go now." On the surface of New Busan, Commander Jin-ho Choi ran through burning streets as alien ships dropped bombs from the sky. Buildings collapsed around him as he led a group of civilians toward the underground shelters. "This way," he shouted, his voice barely heard over the sound of explosions. "Keep moving." An old man stumbled and fell. Jin-ho stopped to help him up, feeling the heat of fires on his back. The alien ships were getting closer, their weapons turning the night into day with each blast. "My grandson," the old man wheezed. "I can't find my grandson." "We'll find him," Jin-ho promised, though he knew it was probably a lie. "But first, we need to get you safe." They reached the shelter entrance just as another wave of alien ships passed overhead. The thunder of their engines made the ground shake. Jin-ho helped push the civilians inside, then looked back at the burning city. His radio crackled. "All ground units, this is Captain Park. We're holding them as long as we can, but they're breaking through our lines. Get everyone underground. Now." Jin-ho keyed his radio. Copy that, Captain. We're moving as fast as we can. In space, the alien Admiral Krelthax watched the human ships with amusement. His flagship was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Around him, 2,000 more ships waited for his orders. "Look how they struggle," he said to his officers. "Like insects trying to fight the wind." His science officer, a nervous creature named Yuldog, studied his instruments. "Sir, their weapons are more advanced than our intelligence suggested. They're actually causing some damage to our outer ships." Krelthax laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Damage? A few scratched hulls. I am not impressed." He leaned forward in his command chair. "Send in the next wave. Crush them." 1,000 alien ships moved forward, their weapons charging with deadly light. The human ships looked tiny against them, like toys scattered on the floor. But then something appeared on the edge of the system. Something that made every sensor screen across the alien fleet flash with warnings. "Sir," Yuldog said, his voice suddenly tight with fear, "we're detecting a new contact. Single ship, moving fast." "Another human vessel?" Krelthax asked. "How big?" Yuldog checked his readings again, not believing what he saw. 3 kilometers long, sir. And the energy readings. I've never seen anything like this. On the bridge of Captain So Young's ship, Communications Officer Dong Su suddenly straightened. "Captain, I'm getting a signal. It's on military frequencies. But the encryption is something I've never seen before." "Put it through," So Young ordered. A calm voice filled the bridge. "This is Admiral Taehyun Seo of the HSV Eternal Phoenix. All human vessels maintain current position. We are implementing Protocol Omega." So Young's blood went cold. Protocol Omega was theoretical, a last resort that existed only in classified files. She had heard rumors of secret ships, secret weapons, but she had never believed them. "Sir," her tactical officer whispered, "long-range sensors are picking up the new ship. Captain, it's huge." Through the bridge windows, they could see a new star in the distance. But it wasn't a star. It was a ship blazing with energy that seemed to bend the very fabric of space around it. The real battle was about to begin. The massive ship dropped out of hyperspace like a falling mountain made of metal and light. 3 kilometers of sleek, angular hull that seemed to drink in the starlight around it. The Eternal Phoenix had arrived, and space itself seemed to hold its breath. Admiral Taehyun Seo stood on the bridge of his impossible ship, watching the battle rage in the distance. Around him, his crew worked at stations that hummed with energy no human had ever seen before. The technology was beyond anything in their normal fleet. It was beyond anything most humans could even imagine. "Status report," he said calmly, as if he had not just arrived in the middle of a battle that would decide the fate of 50 million people. Lieutenant Bora Jung looked up from her tactical station. 2,000 enemy vessels confirmed, sir. They have our colony ships completely surrounded. Estimated time until colony falls, 30 minutes. Taehyun nodded. 30 minutes. He had arrived with time to spare. "And our fleet?" 12 ships. "Still fighting, sir. They're taking heavy damage but holding the line. Admiral Lee's ship, the Taeguk, is holding back, probably waiting for orders." "Good. Contact Admiral Lee. Tell him to maintain position and observe. What he sees today must be reported to Fleet Command." Engineer Hae-won Kim called out from her station. "Sir, all weapon systems are online. Temporal displacement cannons at full charge. Reality anchors are stable. We're ready to begin." Taehyun smiled. The enemy had no idea what they were about to face. "Open a channel to the alien fleet. All frequencies." Communications Officer Yoon-Soo Lee worked at his controls. "Channel open, sir." "Alien fleet," Taehyun spoke clearly, his voice carrying across space to every enemy ship. "This is Admiral Taehyun Seo of the Human Space Navy. You have attacked our people without cause. You have threatened our children. This is your only warning. Withdraw from this system immediately or face total annihilation." On the alien flagship, Admiral Krelthax listened to the transmission with growing amusement. Around his bridge, his officers chattered and clicked with what passed for laughter among their species. "One ship," Krelthax said, his voice booming. through the command center. One single ship challenges my entire armada. He leaned forward, his multiple eyes glittering with cruel humor. Human, your people are brave but stupid. We are the Vorthak Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your tiny colonies mean nothing to us. Science Officer Yuldog studied his readings with growing concern. Sir, the energy readings from that ship, they don't match anything in our databases. The power levels are what? Krelthax snapped. Impossible, sir. According to our sensors, that ship is generating more power than our entire fleet combined. Krelthax waved a dismissive claw. Sensor error. No ship that size could generate such power. Not even our dreadnoughts. He turned to his weapons officer. Target the newcomer. Show them what happens when insects challenge the Empire. 100 alien ships turned their weapons toward the Eternal Phoenix. Plasma cannons that could melt mountains charged with deadly energy. Quantum torpedoes loaded into launch tubes. Enough firepower to destroy a moon prepared to focus on a single target. Aboard the Phoenix, Lieutenant Bo-Ra Jung watched the enemy ships target them. Sir, they're locking weapons. Should we raise shields? Tae-hyun shook his head. No need. Let them waste their ammunition. It will make the lesson more clear. The alien ships fired. A storm of energy and missiles crossed the space between the fleets, enough destructive force to vaporize anything in its path. The human crews watching from their damaged ships held their breath, certain they were about to watch their mysterious savior die. The weapons struck the Phoenix directly. Light filled space as plasma and explosions bloomed around the massive ship. For a moment, the Phoenix disappeared entirely behind a wall of fire and energy. Then the light faded. The Phoenix hung in space, completely undamaged. Not a scratch on its hull. Not even a scorch mark. The alien weapons had passed through it like it existed in a different reality entirely. Impossible, whispered Yuldog on the alien flagship. Direct hits. Our most powerful weapons. They should have destroyed that ship 10 times over. Krelthax stared at his screens, his confidence shaking for the first time in decades. Fire again. All ships. Focus everything on that vessel. This time. 500 ships opened fire at once. The space around the Phoenix turned into a hell of exploding energy and twisted metal. The barrage continued for a full minute, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. When it ended, the Phoenix still floated in space untouched, worse than untouched. It began to move forward, gliding through the debris of the alien weapons as if they were no more than dust in the wind. On New Busan's surface, civilian Yoonji Yang stood on her apartment balcony with her young son Min-ho, watching the battle in the sky. The alien bombardment had stopped when their ships turned to fight the newcomer. Mom, what's that big bright ship? Min-ho asked, pointing at the Phoenix as it blazed with internal light. I don't know, sweetheart, Yoonji said softly. But I think it might be here to help us. The alien ships around the planet began to retreat toward their main fleet, their confidence shattered by what they had just witnessed. For the first time since the attack began, hope flickered in the hearts of the colony's defenders. Aboard the Taeguk, Admiral Dongmin Lee stared at his sensor readings in disbelief. Mi-young, are these readings correct? Communications Officer Mi-young Han checked her instruments again. Yes, sir. The enemy weapons passed right through the Phoenix. Not absorbed, not deflected. They passed through like the ship wasn't even there. But we can see it. Our sensors detect it. Yes, sir. But when the weapons hit, it was like the ship existed in a different dimension, like it could choose when to be solid and when to be something else. Dongmin had seen many battles, many strange weapons, but this was beyond anything in his experience. Where did this ship come from? What kind of technology can do this? Before anyone could answer, the Phoenix began to move again. Not toward the enemy fleet, but toward a small asteroid field at the edge of the system. It moved with impossible grace, bending around obstacles that should have required careful navigation. It's not following normal physics, whispered Tactical Officer Jae-sung. Look at the way it moves. No ship can change direction like that without showing stress on the hull. The Phoenix reached the asteroid field and stopped. On its bridge, Admiral Tae-hyun Seo gave his first combat order. Target the asteroid designated Alpha 7. Fire 1 temporal displacement burst. Minimum power. Engineer Hae-won Kim's hands moved over controls that looked more like art than technology. Temporal displacement cannon charged to 1% power. Firing. The weapon that fired from the Phoenix did not look like any weapon the humans had ever seen. It was not a beam of light or a missile. It was something that bent space itself. A ripple in the fabric of reality that reached out and touched the targeted asteroid. The asteroid, a chunk of rock the size of a city, simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized. It was there one moment, and the next moment it had never been there at all. Even the debris that should have been left behind was gone, as if time itself had erased it from history. Across both fleets, every sensor, operator stared at readings that made no sense. The asteroid had not just been destroyed. According to their instruments, it had never existed in the first place. Admiral Krelthax felt fear touch his heart for the first time in his long military career. What did they just do? Science Officer Yuldag's voice shook as he reported. Sir, the asteroid is gone. Not destroyed. Gone. Our sensors show that section of space as if there was never anything there. The alien admiral looked at the human ship with new eyes. Not the eyes of a predator looking at prey, but the eyes of prey recognizing a predator far beyond anything it had ever faced. The real demonstration was about to begin. Admiral Tae-hyun Seo straightened his uniform and walked to the center of his bridge. Around him, the impossible technology of the Eternal Phoenix hummed with barely contained power. The ship existed in normal space and hyperspace at the same time, drawing energy from dimensions that most scientists believed were just theory. Open a channel to the alien fleet, he ordered. Full spectrum broadcast. I want every ship to hear this clearly. Communications Officer Yoon-soo Lee nodded. Channel open, sir. Broadcasting on all frequencies. Tae-hyun looked directly into the recording device, his face calm as winter stone. When he spoke, it was in perfect Vorthak language, each word pronounced with academic precision. Admiral Krelthax of the Vorthak Empire, I am Admiral Tae-hyun Seo of the Human Space Navy. You have witnessed a demonstration of our capabilities. This is your final warning. Withdraw all forces from this system immediately, or we will demonstrate why your empire should fear humanity. On the alien flagship, the bridge fell silent as Tae-hyun's words filled the air. The perfect Vorthak language, coming from human lips, shocked them almost as much as the weapon they had just witnessed. Admiral Krelthax recovered first, his pride overriding his growing fear. You speak our language well, human, but words and tricks will not save your pathetic colony. We are the Vorthak Empire. We have ruled the stars for 1,000 years while your species was still crawling in mud. His officers clicked their approval, their confidence returning. They had conquered dozens of species. They had weapons that could burn continents. Surely this was all some elaborate bluff. You destroy one asteroid and think you can frighten us? Krelthax continued, his voice booming across the communication channel. We have antimatter warheads that can crack planets. We have shield technology that can stop any weapon. You are insects challenging giants. Tae-hyun listened patiently to the aliens boasting. He had expected this reaction. Pride was a universal weakness, and the Vorthak had more pride than most species. Your confidence is noted, Tae-hyun replied calmly. However, you misunderstand the situation. That was not a demonstration of our weapons. That was a calibration test. Would you like to see what our weapons can actually do? Before Krelthax could respond, Tae-hyun gave a quiet order to his crew. Target the outer patrol squadron. Ships designated Tango 1 through Tango 50. Temporal displacement cannons, 5% power. Fire when ready. On New Busan's surface, the evacuation continued in underground shelters. Commander Jin-ho Choi moved between the crowded bunkers, trying to keep people calm while the battle raged overhead. Commander, called out Dr. Da-hee Park, the colony's chief scientist. She had been studying the sensor readings from the mysterious human ship. You need to see this. The energy patterns from that ship, they're not following any known laws of physics. Jinho looked at her data pad, though the complex readings meant little to him. What does it mean? It means whoever built that ship has technology that makes our most advanced systems look like stone tools. The power readings alone, it's like they're drawing energy directly from the fabric of space itself. Above them, they could hear the rumble of alien ships moving. But for the first time since the attack began, the sounds were growing more distant. The aliens were retreating toward their main fleet. "Mom, are the bad ships going away?" asked Young, Minho tugging on his mother Yunji's sleeve. Yunji looked up at the shelter ceiling, listening to the sounds of battle. "I think so, sweetie. I think someone very strong came to help us." In space, the Vorthak Outer Squadron hung in formation at the edge of their fleet. 50 ships, each one a kilometer long and bristling with weapons. They were the pride of the Empire, veterans of 100 conquered worlds. Captain Velthok commanded the squadron from his flagship. He had laughed at the humans' warning along with his crew. Now he watched the strange human ship with growing unease. "Sir," reported his sensor officer, "the human vessel is targeting us. Energy readings are..." "Sir, the numbers don't make sense." "All ships evasive maneuvers," Velthok ordered. "Show these humans what Vorthak warriors can do." The 50 ships began to move, their engines blazing as they tried to scatter. But the Phoenix was already firing. The temporal displacement cannons did not shoot beams of light or streams of particles. They fired controlled tears in the fabric of reality itself. Space twisted around each targeted ship, and then something impossible happened. The ships began to fade, not explode, not burn, not break apart. They became transparent, like ghosts, and then they were gone. 50 massive warships simply ceased to exist, leaving behind empty space that rippled with strange energies. Aboard the alien flagship, Science Officer Yuldog stared at his instruments in horror. "Sir, the outer squadron, they're gone." "Gone?" Krelthax demanded. "Destroyed?" "No, sir. Gone. According to our sensors, they never existed. There's no debris, no energy signatures, no trace they were ever there. It's like time itself erased them." The alien bridge fell silent except for the hum of machinery. Every officer stared at the screen showing empty space where 50 of their strongest ships had been moments before. Captain So-Young Park watched from her damaged ship as the alien vessels simply disappeared. Her tactical officer, Jinho, checked his instruments 3 times before speaking. "Captain, I'm not reading any debris. No explosions. The enemy ships just stopped existing." So-Young had fought in battles across human space. She had seen ships destroyed by antimatter bombs, torn apart by railguns, melted by plasma cannons, but she had never seen anything like this. "What kind of weapon can erase something from existence?" she whispered. Aboard the Taeguk, Admiral Dongmin Lee was asking himself the same question. His science officer, a brilliant woman named Hai Rin, was running every analysis she could think of. "The quantum signatures are all wrong," she reported. "It's like those ships were pulled out of our timeline entirely. They didn't die, they were removed from history." Dongmin watched the Phoenix as it moved toward the next group of alien ships. "Where did we get technology like this? What aren't they telling us about human capabilities?" Back on the Phoenix Bridge, Engineer Haiwan Kim reported to her admiral. "Temporal displacement successful, sir. No reality distortion feedback, the quantum anchors held perfectly." Taehyun nodded. "Excellent. Open the channel again." He looked into the camera, his expression unchanged. "Admiral Krelthax, you have now seen 5% of our weapons power. 50 of your ships no longer exist. They will never exist again. Even in your memory, you will find it difficult to recall exactly what was there before." The psychological effect was immediate. Across the alien fleet, officers tried to remember what had been in that section of space. They knew ships had been there, but the details were fading like half-remembered dreams. "This is impossible," Krelthax roared, though his voice carried less confidence than before. "No weapon can alter time itself. Your understanding of possibility is limited by your technology. Tae-hyun replied. We are operating on principles your science has not yet discovered. This is your last chance. To withdraw, the next demonstration will involve a larger portion of your fleet. On the alien flagship, Yuldug leaned close to his admiral. Sir, recommend immediate retreat. This technology is beyond our ability to counter. But Krelthax's pride would not let him back down. He had never retreated from any battle. The idea of fleeing from a single human ship was unthinkable. All ships attack Formation 7, he ordered. Full assault on the human vessel. Concentrate all firepower. As his fleet began to move toward the Phoenix, Krelthax did not notice that several of his senior officers had quietly begun to prepare the escape pods. The battle was about to escalate beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Vorthak fleet moved like a massive predator awakening from sleep. 2,000 ships arranged themselves into attack formations that had conquered dozens of worlds. Plasma cannons charged with enough energy to melt mountains. Antimatter torpedoes, loaded into launch tubes. Shield generators powered up to maximum strength. Admiral Krelthax stood at the center of his flagship's bridge, watching his armada prepare for battle. His pride demanded that he crush this single human ship that dared to threaten the mighty Vorthak Empire. All ships report ready, sir, announced his tactical officer. We have overwhelming firepower advantage. Even if their shields can deflect, our weapons they cannot possibly defend against this much concentrated fire. Krelthax nodded grimly. Begin the attack. Show these humans the price of defying the Empire. The first wave launched with the fury of an angry god. 500 ships fired at once, sending streams of plasma and antimatter across space toward the Phoenix. The barrage was enough to destroy a small moon, all focused on a single target. Admiral Tae-hyun Seo watched the incoming fire with calm interest. Around him, his crew prepared their own weapons with the precision of a surgical team. Defensive systems? Asked Lieutenant Borajung. Not necessary, Tae-hyun replied. Let them exhaust their ammunition first. It will make the lesson more memorable. The alien weapons struck the Phoenix with devastating force. Space around the ship exploded into brilliant light as antimatter met matter and plasma temperatures reached the heart of stars. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface, a new sun blooming in the darkness. When the light faded, the Phoenix hung in space exactly where it had been before. Not a single mark showed on its hull. The alien weapons had passed through it like light through water, causing no damage at all. Science Officer Yuldug on the alien flagship checked his instruments frantically. Sir, direct hits confirmed, but no damage detected. Their ship, it's like it exists in multiple dimensions at once. Our weapons can't touch it. Impossible, Krelthax snarled. Nothing can survive that much firepower. Fire again, all ships. This time, the entire fleet opened fire. 2,000 ships unleashed everything they had in a continuous barrage that lasted for 3 full minutes. The space around the Phoenix became a hell of exploding energy and twisted reality, as weapons that could crack planets focused on a single point. Aboard his ship, Tae-hyun calmly sipped tea while his vessel was struck. By enough firepower to destroy a star system, the temporal shields kept the Phoenix existing slightly outside normal space-time, making it untouchable by conventional weapons. Sir, reported Engineer Hye-won Kim, alien fleet has expended approximately 60% of their ammunition. Shall we begin our response? Tae-hyun set down his teacup. Begin the demonstration. Target their heavy cruiser squadron. 20 ships. Temporal displacement at 15% power. The Phoenix moved through the alien barrage like a shark through calm water. Its weapons charged with energies that made space itself ripple with anticipation. The temporal displacement cannons focused on their targets with surgical precision. Captain Mordak commanded the heavy cruiser squadron from his flagship Bone Crusher. He watched the human ship approach through the storm of weapons fire, unbelieving that anything could survive such an assault. Sir, the human vessel is targeting us, reported his tactical officer. Energy readings are... Sir, I've never seen readings like this. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Mordak ordered. Show them what Vorthak engineering can do. His 20 ships began to scatter, their engines blazing with maximum power. These were not slow merchant vessels but fast attack cruisers, each one capable of outrunning most enemy ships. It didn't matter. The Phoenix fired its temporal displacement cannons at 15% power. Reality twisted around each targeted ship as they were pulled backward through time to a point before they existed. One by one, 20 massive warships faded from existence like bad dreams upon waking. But this time, something different happened. The quantum feedback from erasing. So many large objects at once created visible distortions in space. Purple lightning crackled where the ships had been, and the stars beyond seemed to bend and twist. On New Busan's surface, Dr. Da-hee Park watched the display through the shelter's emergency sensors. "My God," she whispered. "They're not just destroying ships. They're removing them from the timeline itself." Commander Jin-Ho Choi looked at the readings over her shoulder. "What does that mean for us?" "It means," Da-hee said slowly, "that whoever built that ship has mastered time itself. They can literally erase their enemies from history." Young Min-ho tugged on his mother Eunji's dress. "Mom, why are the bad ships disappearing?" Eunji knelt down to her son's level. "Because the good guys have a very special ship, sweetheart. A ship that can make bad things go away." She didn't understand how right she was. Aboard the alien flagship, panic was beginning to spread. Yuldog's hands shook as he reported to his admiral. "Sir, Heavy Cruiser Squadron 7 has been eliminated. Total casualties. But sir, according to our logs, that squadron was never deployed to this battle." Krelthax felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" "The computer records show they were still in port at Vorthak Prime. But I remember them being here. We all remember them being here. Somehow the human weapon is changing our past." Other officers began checking their own records. Ship rosters that should have listed 70 ships now showed only 50. Battle plans that had included the heavy cruisers now made no mention of them. Only their memories remained. And even those were starting to fade. Captain So-young Park felt the same confusion on her own ship. "Jin-Ho, didn't there used to be more alien ships? I could swear there were more of them a few minutes ago." Her tactical officer checked his logs, frowning. "According to our sensors, there have always been exactly this many enemy vessels, Captain. But I have the strangest feeling you're right." The Phoenix moved deeper into the alien formation, its weapons charging for another strike. "Admiral," Taehyun Seo opened communications once more. "Admiral Krelthax," he said calmly, "you have now witnessed 15% of our weapons capability. 70 of your ships have been removed from existence. Your Empire's records will show they were never built. Your officers will struggle to remember they ever existed. Do you require further demonstration?" On the alien flagship, Krelthax stared at his tactical display. The numbers kept changing as his computers updated to match the new timeline. Ships that he clearly remembered commanding were listed as never existed. Battles they had fought, together were recorded as solo missions. "This is madness," he whispered. "You cannot alter the past. It is impossible." "Your understanding of possibility is limited," Taehyun replied. "We have moved beyond the constraints that bind your technology. This is your final warning. Withdraw now or face complete erasure." But even as fear gnawed at his heart, Krelthax's pride would not let him retreat. He was a Vorthak admiral. His ancestors had conquered the stars when humans were still discovering fire. He would not be the first in his bloodline to run from battle. "All ships," he commanded, his voice shaking with rage and terror, "prepare for final assault. If we die today, we die as warriors of the Empire." The remaining alien ships formed up for one last desperate attack. They knew they were facing something beyond their understanding, but their culture demanded they die fighting rather than flee in shame. Admiral Taehyun Seo watched them prepare for their futile assault. He felt no joy in what was about to happen, only the cold satisfaction of a job that would soon be completed. "Prepare temporal displacement cannons for maximum sustainable fire," he ordered. "It's time to end this." The Phoenix began to glow with internal light, as its impossible weapons prepared to write the final chapter of the Vorthak Empire's last battle. In 5 minutes, the largest alien fleet ever assembled would simply cease to have ever existed. The demonstration was about to become an execution. Time became a weapon in the hands of humanity. The Phoenix moved through the Vorthak fleet like death itself had taken physical form. Its temporal displacement cannons fired with mechanical precision, each shot carefully calculated to maximize psychological impact while minimizing quantum instability. Admiral Tae-hyun Seo stood at the center of his bridge, watching the systematic elimination of the largest alien fleet in known history. His voice remained calm as he gave orders that rewrote reality itself. Target Squadron Alpha 7, 15 ships, fire when ready. Engineer Hye-won Kim's hands moved over controls that seemed to bend light around them. Temporal displacement. Cannons charged to 20%. Firing. Space twisted around the targeted ships like a predator's jaws closing. Reality rippled outward from each vessel as they were pulled backward through time to a point before their construction. One by one, 15 massive alien warships simply stopped existing. The effect was not instant. For a brief moment, the ships became transparent like ghosts of themselves. Their crews had just enough time to realize what was happening before they faded into nothing, taking all memory of their existence with them. On the alien flagship, Science Officer Yuldog watched his readings with growing horror. Each time the human weapon fired, his computers automatically updated the fleet roster. Ships that had been there moments before were suddenly listed as never constructed. Battle plans reorganized themselves to account for forces that had apparently never existed. "Sir," he reported to Admiral Krell Thax, his voice breaking with strain. "Fleet strength down to..." "Sir, I can't keep track. The numbers keep changing. In our own computers." Krell Thax gripped his command chair as another squadron vanished from existence. He could see it happening, but his mind struggled to process what he was witnessing. Memory and reality were becoming enemies, fighting each other in his head. "How many ships do we have left?" he demanded. I don't know, sir. According to current records, we always had fewer ships than I remember launching with, but I remember commanding a larger fleet." The alien admiral closed his eyes, trying to hold on to memories that were slipping away like water through his claws. He had led 2,000 ships into this system. He was sure of it. But now his own computers told him he had started with only 1,800 ships. Soon it would be 1,600. Then 1,400. The Phoenix continued its methodical work. Lieutenant Bo-ra Jung called out targets with clinical precision, while the temporal weapons erased entire squadrons from the timeline. Each shot was a masterpiece of controlled devastation, removing enemy ships without disturbing the fundamental structure of spacetime. "Target the command cruiser group," Tae-hyun ordered. "Leave the flagship for last. I want their admiral to watch his fleet disappear before we deal with him." Captain So-young Park observed the battle from her damaged ship, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. Her tactical officer, Jin Ho, kept checking and rechecking his sensor logs. "Captain, something's wrong with our records," he reported. "An hour ago, our computers showed 2,000 enemy ships. Now they show 1,800, but the timestamp hasn't changed. According to our logs, there were always 1,800 ships." So-young felt a chill run down her spine. The weapon isn't just destroying ships, it's changing history itself. Aboard the Taeguk, Admiral Dong-min Lee was reaching the same terrifying conclusion. His science officer, Hai-rin, had been monitoring the quantum fluctuations around each weapon. "Discharge. Sir, each time they fire, the quantum state of local space-time shifts. It's like they're editing the universe itself, removing unwanted elements and seamlessly stitching reality back together." "That's impossible," Dong-min said, though he no longer sounded certain. "Nothing can alter the past. Causality doesn't work that way." "Maybe causality doesn't work the way we thought," Hai-rin replied quietly. "Maybe we've been thinking too small." On New Busan's surface, the evacuation shelters had become strangely quiet. The alien bombardment had stopped hours ago as the enemy fleet retreated to face the Phoenix. Now people huddled around emergency monitors, watching the impossible battle unfold overhead. Dr. Dahi Park tried to explain what they were seeing to Commander Jin Ho Choi, though she barely understood it herself. The energy patterns suggest they're manipulating quantum foam at the Planck scale. Essentially, they're reaching into the foundation of reality and making surgical edits. "In simple terms?" Jin Ho asked. They're gods, Dahi whispered. We've become gods and didn't even know it. Civilian Yunji Yang held her son Minho close as they watched the distant lights in the sky. Each flash meant alien ships disappearing, forever. But the child saw it differently. The bad ships are going away, Mom, he said with innocent wonder. The magic ship is making them go away. Magic. Perhaps that was the best word for what they were witnessing. Technology so advanced it might as well have been magic, wielded by humans who had somehow transcended the normal limits of science and engineering. The Phoenix reached the inner formations of the Vorthak fleet. These were the elite ships, the pride of the Empire's navy. Their commanders were veterans of 100 conquered worlds, beings who had never known defeat. They died as easily as the rest. Captain Vorthak commanded the dreadnought Blood of Empire, the second most powerful ship in the Vorthak fleet. He watched the human vessel approach through a cloud of quantum distortions that hurt to look at directly. All weapons maximum power, he ordered his crew. If we're going to die, we'll take them with us. His massive ship fired everything it had. Antimatter torpedoes that could crack moons. Plasma beams hot enough to ignite atmospheres. Gravitational disruptors that could tear space itself apart. The weapons passed through the Phoenix like light through empty air. The human ship didn't even slow down. Vorthak had time for one final transmission. For the Empire, he said simply. Then, his ship faded from existence, taking with it all record that the mighty Blood of Empire had ever been built. In the Imperial shipyards, construction schedules updated to show that berth had always been assigned to a smaller vessel. History rewrote itself to exclude one of the most powerful warships ever created. Admiral Krelthax was alone now. His mighty Armada had been reduced to a single ship. No, that wasn't right. According to his computers, he had always commanded only one ship in this battle. The other vessels were listed as assigned to different sectors or never constructed, but he remembered. Through the quantum fog that clouded his mind, he remembered commanding thousands. The Phoenix had taken his fleet and somehow convinced reality that it had never existed in the first place. "Open a channel," he commanded, his voice hollow with defeat. The communication screen activated, showing the calm face of Admiral Tae-hyun Seo. The human looked exactly as he had at the beginning of the battle, as if erasing 2,000 ships. From existence was no more tiring than a morning walk. "Admiral Krelthax," Tae-hyun said politely. "Do you wish to surrender?" Krelthax looked around his bridge at officers who kept checking instruments that told them lies that were somehow also the truth. What are you?" "We are humanity," Tae-hyun replied simply. "We are what we chose to become when we decided that the universe's rules were merely suggestions. This is impossible. You cannot rewrite the past. And yet here we are. Your fleet is gone, Admiral. They never existed. Only you remain, and only because I wish you to carry a message back to your empire." Krelthax felt the weight of absolute defeat crushing down on him. In his long military career, he had never imagined that such power could exist. "What message?" "Tell your empire this. Humanity is no longer the weak species you once dismissed. We have evolved beyond your ability to threaten us. Any future attacks on human territory will result in the complete erasure of the attacking force from history itself." The alien admiral looked at his empty tactical display, where moments before thousands of ships had been arrayed for battle. Now there was only empty space and the growing certainty that he was the only survivor of something that had somehow never happened. "The Empire will never believe this," he said weakly. "Then perhaps," Tae-hyun replied with a cold smile, "the Empire will choose to test us again. We would welcome the opportunity for another demonstration." The communication ended. Krelthax sat alone on his bridge, the only being in the universe who remembered that the greatest fleet in Vorthak history had ever existed. Around him, reality had settled into its new configuration, seamlessly edited to exclude any trace of the ships that had been erased. The Phoenix began to move away, its work complete. In exactly 5 minutes, it had eliminated 2,000 enemy vessels, and rewritten history to make their existence impossible. The age of human supremacy had begun with barely a whisper,